Welcome to What's the Word? I'm your host, Jaime McFaden, and I'm so excited to have you here. This podcast is about all things wellness. Each week, we will focus on a word of the day, and I interview some of the most inspirational people I know and share that inspiration with you. Join me, let's learn together on What's the Word.
This is the place where I belong.
Hi, and welcome to What's the Word? I'm your host, Jaime McFaden, and today is a very special and unique episode that I have been really looking forward to. I am interviewing today the CEO and founder of Space Coyote, and we're going to get into exactly what that is in just a little bit. She's a leader in the cannabis industry, an artist, and a dreamer. And today she's here to talk about just that, living the dream, which by definition means a cherished aspiration, ambition, or ideal. And today, here she is, none other than Libby Cooper. Thank you so much for being here. You are a ray of sunshine. And Libby, you and I got connected through your wonderful mother, who I adore so much, who is now living on the island with you, which is amazing. Love that. And so I just want to jump in right now and ask you, what does dream mean to you, and why did you choose that word today?
I think dream is this pillar of my entire life. You know, if I want to do something, I go out and do it. And I definitely consider myself a big dreamer. And even the brand that I've created can be described as, the voice can be described as that optimistic friend that you have who's always daydreaming. So dream is just a big part of my life. And I thought, hey, why not talk about it? I'm often on a lot of podcasts talking about cannabis business and entrepreneurship. And I just thought, you know what? It's time to change it up and really be my authentic self. So here I am talking about dreams. Yeah.
I love it. And you yourself, I mean, founder of a company in the cannabis industry where, let's be real, I'm sure that you have maybe gone through some sort of hurdles, to be where you're at today, and you're doing something, you're living the dream, you're living on an island in Hawaii. I see you. And for anyone that follows you and for anyone that doesn't follow her, please do. She has an incredibly inspirational and very honest and open Instagram. You talk about a lot of things that I think, many of us might think about or aspire to do or be, and you are actually living proof that if you have a dream, go and do it. Like, do something different, break the norm. So I want to know, tell us just a little bit, for anyone that doesn't know you, that's my audience, might go, well, what is Space Coyote? Clearly you heard me speak about the cannabis industry. So let's just dive in real quick and can you tell our listeners and viewers that don't know, what is Space Coyote?
Yeah, Space Coyote is a cannabis brand out of California. Unfortunately, based on the regulations in the US right now, we're not able to take weed across state lines. So it is only in California, but California is the 5th largest economy in the world for any industry. And it's the largest economy in the world for cannabis. So I'm okay with it right now. Just only being in California, we've got enough hurdles to jump over and challenges to face, but we specifically make super potent products. So we're known for having products that explore the psychedelic side of weed. We're really pushing the boundary on, not just potency, but also deliciousness. So really rich terpene profile. And for anyone who doesn't know what that means, it's the smell. So if you smell an orange or you smell a grapefruit, you really get those citrusy notes. We really focus on those fruity flavors in our weed, but then also much more earthy tones. So we really want this to be a high quality product. We make infused joints. That means that we're actually rolling things like hash into our joints to make them even more potent, but also more delicious, because I like to give the analogy, imagine eating a piece of toast with no butter, no jam, no peanut butter on it. It's a really dry experience and boring. But it's sustenance. You're not going to be hungry afterwards. Now imagine if that piece of toast was sold at the grocery store and it had been toasted by someone a couple months ago. And so you're now eating not just a boring, dry piece of toast, it's also really stale. And that's what joints are today in dispensaries. You're getting fresh, delicious flour, grinding it up at a manufacturing facility, and then it's going to testing, it's going to a distributor, it then has to be sold onto the dispensary floor. A customer then has to pick it off the shelf. It actually sits on the shelf for up to 2 months. And if you don't have that extract mixed in, if you don't have that jam, on the toast, you're getting a joint that is pretty dry and pretty stale. So we've developed this proprietary method of just really bringing weed back to that original, high school stoner experience of you're grinding up your own weed and smoking it in the backseat of someone's car. At the dispensary level now in the legal market, it's very different. So we want our weed to be flavorful and give you the effect that you're searching for. So that's pretty much what Space Coyote is.
I love it. I love it so much. And so for a question I have for you actually within this industry is, personally, do you prefer, or would you say, indoor versus outdoor for a grow?
Yeah, it's a great question. I personally prefer outdoor because I love analogies. So I believe, similar to tomatoes, tomatoes bought at the farmer's market have been lovingly grown with the sun and in small batches just taste a lot better. I think we all can universally say that if you get veggies from your friend's garden, it's going to taste a lot better than those veggies you're buying at Costco. And that's what's happening in weed as well. Indoor grows, they really stress the plants. They're almost like slave plants, that they're put in this tiny little zone and they're being forced to grow and they're being stressed so that they're overproducing 24/7. Whereas weed grown outside, it has the sunlight during the day, has the moonlight at night. It goes through its natural circadian rhythms, just like human beings. And it still produces an amazing, flavorful bud that you can smoke, but it's not this sort of like pumped up, genetically modified crop.
Right. And so now, for those that are listening, they might be going, okay, wait a minute. What is going on here, Jamie? This is a self-care podcast where you're always talking about, nutritionist foods, and we're with doctors and therapists and all the areas. And so someone might be surprised going, wow, I'm really, curious, what's the deal with this? And I actually just wanted to emphasize that, especially times like right now, we're going through, something in the last couple of years that none of us have ever experienced in many different ways of this pandemic. But I will say, like, alcohol sales, they've skyrocketed. Addictions, they've skyrocketed. Mental health has gone down. So quite frankly, I'm at a place where I believe it's best for all of us to be our authentic self. And I will full-heartedly say that I very much support the cannabis industry. I think that it's a wonderful use, not just recreationally, but medicinally. I think that there's a lot of wonderful attributes to it. So I'd love to just kind of hear because I also know you're very fit, you're very healthy. I follow you along on social media. I've worked out with your mom a lot. So you're surfing, you're out in the sun, you're eating good foods. And I think that that's part of it. So I'd love to hear a little bit of your thoughts and feelings on, cannabis and how it can pertain to self-care.
Definitely. Cannabis is a big part of my self-care routine because I don't drink alcohol and it's my vice of choice. And I very much do think of it as a vice. I think we all have our vices. Some people really like sugar, desserts, soda, that category. Some people are lush and they, love their cocktails. And for me, I don't smoke that much quantity of weed, but I definitely do smoke quite frequently. I'm smoking at least every other day during the week. Sometimes I'll bundle it. I'll be like Thursday through Sunday, I'm smoking weed. But I just think that if you do something intentionally and you're doing it for stress relief or, stomach pain relief, or even just to have fun, that is so good for your mental health. It's a tool in your toolkit. And for me, I actually found weed really did help. I specifically said stomach pain, but I really felt that weed helped with my celiac disease. I got a celiac disease diagnosis in high school, and that led me down my own health journey. I definitely say that it's, of all the autoimmune diseases that you can get diagnosed with, it's the best one because you're fully in control. It's the OG gluten-free diet. And if I get sick, it's essentially my fault because I put myself in a situation where there's cross-contamination with wheat, or I have chosen to sort of disregard some ingredients. So I'm fully in control. But on top of that, I definitely struggled through my 20s to just find a good balance. And weed was a tool that I used to help when I made mistakes. If I went to a friend's house and they tried their hardest to make me something gluten-free, but maybe they, I don't know, used a wooden spoon that had a few days prior been used to stir a pot of pasta, I would get sick from that. And the friend wouldn't know it was at such a granular level that they needed to be careful. So weed actually became this thing that I would use to just get me through those hellish 3 days afterwards of eating that meal. But equally, I smoke weed when I want to dance, and I'm dancing, many, many days out of the week. Music and dance is a big part of my, physical and mental health therapy. And it's totally freeform. And if you saw me dancing, you'd be like, what? She's just jumping around.
I love it.
Trained. But I think that if you use something medicinally and for fun, and you know what you're doing, and you're not pretending like when you're using it for fun that it's medicinal, and equally, when you're using it medicinally, you're very much like, I need to feel better right now. Then weed is great to just help us get through really stressful times. And you mentioned it, weed sales went up so much during COVID. It was funny at first because people were like, whoa, I don't want to smoke, like I need to protect my lungs, my body is a temple. And 2 months into the pandemic, people were like, fuck this, I need to get high. And so sales at the dispensary really went up. And since last year, our sales have doubled.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And now, okay, talking about taking it back to dreams, and I'd love to hear a little bit about, this is a dream that maybe you had and then you made it come to fruition. Like how, can you walk us through a little bit of that journey?
Yeah. I was working, sort of classic, young 20s out of college, working in the tech Silicon Valley world of startups. And I thought it was very exciting at first, but I just wasn't that passionate. So I think the initial excitement wore off very quickly, and I started to feel burnout. And I thought, I'm way too young to have these feelings. I'm like 24, 25 being like, I hate this. Like I'm selling my soul. I'm a cog in the machine. And I basically sat down and identified 3 things that I was passionate about, unprompted from anyone else, but I'm sure it's a technique that a lot of people use. And speaking of gluten-free, I identified I was passionate about gluten-free. I was passionate about dogs. And I was also passionate about weed. And I think using my parents' guidance from my childhood, they weren't part of this exercise, but they really wanted to make sure that I was going to be successful and be able to make it on my own. And so I looked at this very short list and said, okay, well, what is going to make me the most money? And it became very obvious to me that weed was the path that I needed to take. And I could bake gluten-free goodies and enjoy gluten-free things on my own. And if I wanted to work with dogs, I could work with dog rescues, which I actually ended up doing. So I decided to make weed my career. And it really has felt like I'm living this crazy fantasy ever since. I truly feel like I have to pinch myself that I get to work in my passion, and it doesn't feel like work. And now having my own company on top of that, I actually joined the cannabis industry and worked at a big cannabis company for a couple of years just to get my feet wet. And now having my own company, that's the ultimate dream. I mean, it's to be your own boss in something that truly is your passion. It's opened so many doors.
Yes. And just hearing you, just seeing you, you really radiate joy and the element of dream. Because quite frankly, I'm sure for some that are listening, and I hear this often, and I get messages all the time from someone saying, you know, I sometimes don't even feel like I believe in myself, or I don't know if I'm worth it, or I don't know if I can do it, or I doubt, you know, the self-doubt. I'm curious to know, have you ever had those moments? Because for those that are listening, I always do my best to remind them that we're all human. We all might have the conditioning in our mind of, I don't know if I can, or how do we do it? But just hearing it from your perspective of what you've gone through and where you're at right now, what kind of advice would you offer to somebody when it comes to dreaming?
My main advice is, you're never going to be ready, and you're never going to know enough. And so that sort of cliche adage of fake it till you make it, it really does work. And you really have to own it, and you have to have confidence. But I have a lot of friends who are now well into their 30s who for many years, I heard them for 10 years saying, I want to start my company, but I need to learn a bit more. Like, I need another mentor. I need another job on my resume. I don't feel ready yet. And maybe you'll never be ready if you think that way. You have to have a certain amount of fearlessness to just jump into the unknown. And everything that's coming out of my mouth, it is a cliche, but it's true at the same time. The imposter syndrome can get the better of all of us. But if you're feeling that, you just have to remember that, you're in this position that you are because you put yourself there, and we can define our own realities. No one else is telling us what to do. We have to unlearn a lot of conditioning from our childhoods, from society at large. But if you can basically ignore everything, you can truly do whatever you want. I, for example, really wanted to move to the North Shore of Oahu, and I really wanted to become a surfer. I'd never surfed. I didn't know anybody here, and I wanted to start my own company. And so I basically created Space Coyote with my co-founder to be an entirely remote company so that I could move to Hawaii and so that I could learn how to surf. And we actually launched the company on like a Friday or Saturday. We had a launch event. I think it was Friday. We had this crazy launch event.
I remember seeing pictures.
Yeah, it was so fun. And 8 dispensaries picked us up right there. And, we were like, woohoo, we're a real company. And I moved to the North Shore of Oahu the next day.
Wow.
Literally, it was a crazy weekend. And, got my dog on a plane, my huge 90-pound dog on the plane. And just did it. I was so determined that I wasn't going to create a company where the employees were also that cog in the machine, that feeling that I had felt in my early and mid 20s. I wanted to create a company where, if an employee wanted to go work in Brazil for a month, they could. And we actually had an employee go do that, just because that was the type of life I wanted to live. And I didn't want a situation where I could go live my dream, but everybody else couldn't.
Right. Oh, I love that. What a great boss. Yes, girl. Way to lead by example.
Selfish, but it also
No, that's
you
self-care. That's
it's self-care,
self-care.
right?
This,
Self-care.
because the actual definition and what I work to help my clients and support them on is, and myself too, is self-care is literally taking responsibility to do the things that we know we need to do to enhance our well-being. So
Yeah.
there you are in your 20s, grinding in the tech, industry, doing all this stuff that, this is, I get it. This is what we're supposed to do. And so many of us, we condition ourselves to believe that. We put all this pressure on ourselves. We live in a world where there's a lot of pressure and comparison and all that. And yet here you are, Libby, you broke that and you dove right in. And now here you are, not even that long after from what I'm pretty certain. I mean, I've been following you since I met your mother a couple years ago. And I'm like, I swear she said you just launched it then.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
It's
right?
been
How
3
long?
years. Yeah.
So it was a few years, but 3 years ago. Exactly. And here we are today. And you've been featured in so many magazine articles and podcasts. And anyone I know in the cannabis industry is like, oh my gosh, she's a goddess. Like, you're amazing. I mean, you've paved a whole new way. And that's why I've been so excited to have you on here, because whether someone listening, enjoys cannabis or not, that's beside the point. The point today is about dreaming, and that you created a dream in your heart. You listened to yourself and you manifested and then delivered to yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
That to me is like, that is self-care in every which way. So now I want to dive into your self-care. You brought up music and dance, which I already know you and I, the next time I'm in Hawaii, we're singing, we're dancing, we're space coyoteing, we're all the things. Okay. Hanging with the dogs, all of it. So I'm going to ask you right now, if you could just share with us, what are kind of like your go-to jams right now? Like what's on your playlist?
So I'm actually creating a playlist that I've titled New School Oldies. And it's a bunch of songs like, Fleetwood Mac songs and Bill Withers' Ain't No Sunshine that have been remixed, in these, 2020, 2021 DJs have taken these old songs, remixed them, and then put crazy drops on it and the great dancing beats. And I'm building this playlist so that I can host a new school oldies ecstatic dance in a couple weeks. So it's only an hour long right now, so I need to get it to that like 2-3 hour mark. But once you go down these very specific rabbit holes, you find really good remixes. So it's funny.
Might have some to share with you, because that's like, those are my jam. So it started with all the Kygos and for sure. Yeah. Love it.
So that's the music path I'm on right now. But if you'd asked me this question, I don't know, even just like a week ago, I would have said I've been very much into what you would call world music, which is such a strange, it's always made me think such a strange way of describing it, but a lot of, Senegal music I've been really into, and just fun beats that, we don't ever hear on the radio and would never get top 40.
Right. Agree. I love really great drum music. I love all music.
Yeah.
And I think that music is such a huge element in self-care, because no matter what, music really feeds the soul of anyone, and we can all choose what feels good, what vibes with us. So just like you said, even though you're not a professionally trained dancer, you and I both, I think, would say the same thing. I could blast music. I mean, throughout the pandemic, I had so many solo dance parties, or my 4-year-old daughter this morning, I wake up and she's blasting in her room Beastie Boys and then AC/DC, and she's 4. And I'm so like, cool. But she's jumping on this, she's like, dance party. And I'm like, yeah. So now I wanted to ask you about, because I do know your mom, and your mom is an incredible woman. Like, who has been kind of your inspiration? Because I do feel a lot of us, there's people in our lives that come into our lives that help give us that boost of, you can do this, or believe in yourself, or all those things. And I think you and I were 2 entrepreneurial women that I hope we help pave the way for many other women and men to think, okay, I'm going to go for it, whatever it is.
Yep.
But I'm
Yep.
curious, kind of give me a little bit of who's been your inspiration or inspirations to kind of guide you in this way.
I think both of my parents, they moved our family from London when I was a kid. And just doing something so bold like that, in a way, I guess it's the sort of new American dream, or the American dream is still alive, because yeah, I think my life in London would have been really fun. I would have been very close with my cousins, and I'm actually still close with my childhood friends there. I consider them some of my best friends, but the opportunities there would have been very different. Maybe I would have ended up in finance, just like my mom. I sort of doubt it though. But coming to a place like California, where there is so much opportunity, and I think America in general, where every child during the 90s and the early 2000s were lifted up, and everybody was getting the gold medal of being like, you can do it, just here's a participation award. It actually really helped me. And I think there's a lot of criticism of young adults today, and then also all the way into millennials, where people say that they're lazy or they're just entitled. And I think there's the opposite, where I went to a school, a middle and high school, where it was very much focused on women can do it. So it was an all-girls high school, and being in that environment really made me feel like I was just as good as the boys. I maybe was, more capable than boys. And it created a very intense sense of drive in me that I was going to go out and do something great. And then also, specifically with my parents, I almost feel like I was groomed to be an entrepreneur. My mom is self-employed, and she's had her own business for many, many years. And she always said that, I should have my own business. Equally, my dad, he was very much in the first .com boom of, the original Silicon Valley in the 90s. And then he always worked at startups, and, would tell these stories of different companies. And I had a lot of resistance to it. For a long time, I said, I'm just going to be an artist. And like, I don't want to have my own company. I don't want to be CEO. I was almost like revolted at the idea of being a CEO. And, here I am saying that being an entrepreneur is, one of my biggest passions. I think it was the community at large, my immediate circle, and the community at large that really held me up, and was always rooting me on. And then you're like this, I think being a student athlete also really showed me that I could do it, and that I even during my most awkward times, like prepubescent puberty times, being an athlete and defining myself as an athlete just gave me confidence. I actually ran track in college, D1 track, not the whole time. I actually got injured, but that it really sustained me. I think that if there was some petty boy drama happening, or like some girl group drama happening, I could always find myself playing sports and not caring about all that bullshit. And total aside, I think I'm going to get my knee fixed. 10 years later, I'm finally like, it's time. I need to get an MRI. I need to get this knee fixed. So I hope to be running again soon.
Yay. Love that.
Yeah.
And I really embrace the element that you said, the support of the community, the collective, right? You have this, your family unit, and you acknowledge and embrace and appreciate all of that, what you just said, your schooling, there's been so many elements. And I really love to remind everyone that no matter where we are, no matter where you're at when you're listening to this right now or watching this, you made it here. So for, many people are going through tough times, right? Like a lot of us are going through tough times, And so, and I hear about it, and clients will call me and text me and say, well, I don't know, you could do it, but I don't know if I could do it, or she could do it, and this and that. And my goal is to remind everyone that we are all part of the whole. We all, are capable of having these dreams. And here you are going out and really pursuing it and doing it and living it. So can you just share with me a little bit of your self-care routine? Like, how do you do it? How do you do it all? Because you're like busy CEO, but still surfing, like, yeah, dancing. Tell me what's your secrets?
I follow an Ayurvedic lifestyle. I really find that it keeps me balanced. I have a big emphasis on cleanses. So I like to do a big cleanse at least once a year, and then smaller, very specific cleanses as well. I'm actually currently doing a liver cleanse, and it's my 4th year in a row doing this one specific liver cleanse. And it's 6 days. You take tinctures in the morning, in the afternoon, and night, and then magnesium, and you eat a certain diet during the cleanse. And I just really believe in taking care of our internal organs so that we can feel our best. I used to stay up really, really late and eat a bunch of sugar. I think sugar was truly my addiction. I noticed at one point that I was eating sugar with every meal, in the condiments that I was, the sauces and the whatever that I was sort of dipping things into. And that's a really hard habit to break. But once I broke that, everything else really started to fall into place. So I eat local veggies only. A big reason to move to Hawaii was actually to achieve that next level of health. I was previously living in San Francisco, and I felt like I'd reached the ceiling of how good I was going to feel. And I did not feel good. I would eat food and I'd get really bloated. I took all sorts of different food allergy tests, and they all came back different because it's just not reliable. And I felt very much confused because here I was in this very progressive city with amazing farmers markets around. But I didn't actually know who was growing my food. So moving to Oahu, big reason was to live on a farm. So for 6 months being here, I lived on a farm just to experience what that was like. I then decided to start my own little community. So I think that, maybe now I'm rambling, but good food that, I really like knowing your farmers, having the food grown truly in like a very small radius. So if you can have it grown, in the 50-mile radius around you, organic food, food combinations became very important to me. So just understanding how quickly certain foods digest and matching them with each other is important. For example, I don't eat fruit with anything else. I very much eat fruit. I let that fruit digest, and then I'll eat other things. Good sleep. I definitely wasn't sleeping enough, and I was staying up too late. And the cities have so many fun things to do, and it was very easy to go to bed at 3 a.m. Mm-hmm. So, now I try and watch the sunset every night, and it just makes my brain turn off. I would think, why do I feel so good when I go camping? And like, how is it so easy to go to bed when you're camping? It's because you don't have if the sun goes down, you don't have any light. And so your body's like, oh, time to go to sleep. So I just try and live with those principles, just being more natural, more in tune with nature. And then I really try and move my body for at least 2 to 3 hours a day. And again, when I was living in the city, I was thinking like, I'm going to do this 1-hour yoga class, and that is my exercise. Or I'm going to do this 45-minute spin class, and that's my exercise. And the rest of the time I was sitting slouched in a chair, hands on the laptop, and it just wasn't enough. But I thought that it was enough because I checked that box. I said, I did my workout today. And sometimes
Mhm.
I would be like, I don't need to do my workout today. I booked one for tomorrow. And so I'd have
Right.
like a rest day, but I wasn't pushing myself enough. Um, so it's many things, and it's taken me a very long time to get here. But I finally feel like at the end of every calendar year, I end the year younger than I started it.
And you radiate sunshine. You
Great.
I mean, right
Thank
now,
you.
just seeing you, I mean, your skin glows, your hair, the sound of your voice, what you're saying resonates it's so profound because it is true. And so many of us get wrapped up in all of the external noise that's going on in the world,
Mhm.
as opposed to, like you just said, what if we take a little bit of time? So I hope that that will inspire someone listening. Take a little bit of time to think about what's going on internally, because so
Mhm.
often we're so distracted with so many things going on in the world and everything else in our own lives or social media or whatever else, that we forget that. And so one thing I also want to point out, and I want all my followers to follow you, is that you continuously post, real and authentic, which I love, but so much sunshine and so much joy and so much happiness that it's real. It's not like you're saying, oh, just be happy. Just smile on your face and be happy. You're like, okay, if you have a dream and you want to do something, do it. Or if this offends you, you know what? This is what makes me happy or whatever. Like, you put that out there, and I it's so wonderful. And I want to thank you and honor you for that. And going full circle, kind of going back to your business, I did want to ask you, what do you expect to happen in, the future market with now the influx of big agriculture joining the cannabis movement? Because obviously this movement, I mean, I grew up and I remember there was no dispensaries, and
Right.
now they're in California. They're basically on, I mean, you could call it, order it, right? So you can go online,
Yeah.
like, and so I'm curious your thoughts on that.
We're going to see consolidation. Smaller companies like Space Coyote, which does a lot of volume, but we don't have that. Our team is very small. We're very easy to get acquired. So companies like ours will get snapped up by bigger parent companies, and then those parent companies will either try and get acquired by, I believe, the liquor and tobacco industries. I think they're going to be rolled up into those entities, or they're going to try and IPO on their own. I think we're unfortunately far away from federal legalization of cannabis, just because we're not hearing anything that's really of substance from our federal government right now. And, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we need more time to figure it out. But I do think it's pretty stupid that there are a lot of states where, Oregon, for example, the cost of weed per pound is so cheap because they have too many people growing it. Same with Colorado, too many people growing it. The price has plummeted of this crop, and these poor farmers cannot export it to another state. So what I would hope, though I don't know if it's going to happen, I would hope that some interstate commerce is going to be allowed, maybe on the West Coast, or maybe there's like the tri-state area in New York, New Jersey. I'm just hoping that we can at least transport some weed around across these arbitrary boundary lines that really don't mean anything. But we're far away from weed just being shipped around the country. But another interesting thing to think about is that while America is being so slow, Central and South America are basically getting set up so that they are going to have the massive industrial grows, and most of the weed that is going to be consumed in America in the next decade is going to come from South America and Central America. So it's going to be similar to produce, and the price will drop, but it's sort of just that's the sad reality. But if America can get their act together, maybe that won't be the case. And hopefully California will always be the birthplace of great weed, similar to wine. and people can say this was grown in Santa Rosa, Napa, like a great wine is grown there, a great weed is grown there too. Santa Barbara, great weed is grown there. And so hopefully being a California brand will always stand for something in the eyes of cannabis consumers across the globe. You know, people love California wine in Europe, though the French would hate to know that. But yeah, hopefully one day California weed can be shipped everywhere.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, obviously we could have an entire podcast on just all of the politics around it, because there's so much there. And, you know, being completely open and transparent, you know, like my dad died of alcoholism, and there's so many people that die of something that's completely legal everywhere and pushed upon everyone. And I really like the way that you touched on it earlier in this conversation about we all have vices. Whether it's the sugar, whether it's the food, whether it's the booze, whether it's the pills, whatever it is, the computer, whether it's the internet, the games, whatever it may be, sex, porn, whatever. And the reality is, I think it's really time for us to all start having those open, candid conversations with ourselves to figure out what is it that, because you said you live a very healthy lifestyle overall. And yet, yes, you smoke weed and you sell it and you believe in it and you back it. And so I really am happy to have this conversation with you. And I do want to know now, let's just say, you know, your company gets bought. Is there something else dream wise that you're in your mind already kind of like dreaming of? Is it like, are you going to now open up like a dog sanctuary or like,
I'm
like, there's gotta be some. Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah. I would want to do a dog rescue. Yeah.
I love this. Okay, you and I have so much to connect on. Which, yeah. So I rescued my first dog from Greece 20 years ago. Multiple animals. I have a rescue turtle, like all sorts of stuff. But absolutely, I want to help support that however I can. So you and I certainly will have some conversations after this. But I always like to wrap up with asking you: is there any kind of final word that you'd like to share with our audience about dreams, like a little bit of motivation, a little bit of inspiration before we wrap this up today?
I would say that I don't believe in the word manifestation. If you think manifestation is just asking the universe for something and the universe providing, I believe in manifestation coupled with hard work. You know, if you're asking the universe for something, you're also basically verbalizing to yourself that you need to do something. So don't be afraid of hard work. Don't be afraid of asking for something, but you really need to, you know, push that pedal down. If you want something, you can make it happen, but you're the only one that can make it happen.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, now we wrap up with a speed round. So this is going to be first thing that comes to your mind, really quick. We'll dive right in. The first question I always ask, I'm laughing though, because I'm like, well, I wonder, well, I guess you can still answer because you can have gluten-free of either of them. Pizza or tacos?
Ooh, pizza.
Okay.
This gluten-free pizza is hard to come by. Like,
oh yeah.
I can usually eat tacos.
Yeah, I was like tacos, yeah. But then I'm like, oh wait, I always make cauliflower pizza now, and there's so many gluten-free everywhere. Yeah, so that's great. Okay, if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Ooh, I always used to say flying, but now I would say to go back in time.
Where would you go?
Just a couple years ago. Change a few things.
not like prehistoric time. Okay, cool.
No.
Is there anything that you're afraid of?
Yes. I'm afraid of speaking French in public because I did a French exchange in high school and they did not like how I spoke. And it really created a phobia in me. So sad. I need to overcome that.
But you speak French?
Not really. I did the study French for 7 years thing.
Just that thing. Just
casual.
Okay. Well, when we hang out, you're going to speak French. How about that? Okay. And I will be your biggest fan on that. And let's see, if you could go back to your childhood self, what would you tell her about dreaming?
would say whatever you want can come true, except your cat is not going to live forever. I was devastated when she died, because I really thought she was gonna. I wished so hard that she was gonna live forever.
Yes, I
maybe
know that
that's
feeling.
maybe that's too brutal to tell a child.
No, maybe not. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Keep it real.
Yeah.
Way to keep it real. Anything
Keeping
is
it
true, but just
real.
so you know,
Yeah.
they're going to die. I love that. And I want to just take a moment to honor you. I respect you. I'm so thankful that your mom connected us. I'm so excited to actually come visit you guys when, in the next month or so. We'll be out there, and I'd love to get you for a Q&A. We could do like a little Instagram live or something, just because I know that there's a lot of people that will listen to this conversation, and will probably spark something in them of, either dreaming or just learning more about what you're doing. So thank you for paving the way. Libby, thank you for taking the time today. And I hope that you have a beautiful day. And thank you everyone for joining us on What's the Word? And remember, keep dreaming.
Thank you for joining me here at What's the Word? Follow us on social media with the links on the screen, and don't forget to like and share with your friend. Your support helps us grow and continue to make inspirational content. See you next time on What's the Word?